good afternoon and good morning wherever you are and whenever you're watching this. I'm just going to do a quick tech check. Just make sure we are live. Hit the refresh. And yes, we are. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about, is overthinking such a bad thing? And obviously I was watching a TikTok, I believe, it might be an Instagram reel, yesterday about Dan Pena. So Dan Pena is very, very divisive. You either like him or you love him. Sorry, you either like him or you hate him, from a business sense. Either because he swears too much, or you don't agree with some of the things that he comes out with. But I don't remember what the podcast is from originally, but obviously the host is previously an engineer, and he went, "Oh, what's the wrong with people that are intellectually overthinkers and think too much? What they've got going for them, that's necessarily not what is not helpful. Is they are too intellectual and they rationalize things too much." So what I mean by that is, if the person's an engineer, if they make a mistake, it's going to cost people lives. Be it if you're building a bridge, putting people into space, a calculative error is catastrophic. Whereas he said for making the decision, you need to go with your gut. You need to make a decision very, very quickly. So he says listening to a podcast, reading a book is not taking action. I would disagree, because obviously what is taking action is very subjective. Um, the word that he's probably alluding to is implementation and actually doing something with that information. Uh, Reading a book or listening to a podcast is some sort of action, because you are exhibiting a necessity to want to change. So you are doing some sort of action. But I would agree with him that most people, myself included, do maybe analyze things maybe too much, to look at the pros, the cons, why and why not something may not work out. And I'm going to stand back to a previous video I did talking about Gary Vee and Matt Higgins about burning your boats or burning your plan B. Is if you've got two things in the same equity, it's going to cause problems, because I can't focus all my attention on this if I've got this as a distraction. So why do people overthink? This will probably come down to numerous factors, because of, obviously I've talked about strength a little bit this week on my Facebook and a little bit on YouTube about inner strength. So the person might not have, in their eyes, the discipline that they need to persevere. They might not have the conviction and the confidence in themselves to be successful, because in this instance, they're thinking things over too much. So the narrative that I'm going to utilize and to showcase is a story. In the past, this has not worked out. So if I present that in the present as I'm doing something different, I expect it not to be successful, because I've already talked myself out of it. So I'm overthinking the process already. That's one example. If I've had no success in the past whatsoever, my overthinking is, hey, why should this be any different this time around? So my uncertainty of what I believe to be the future is I'm a bit fearful of that. It's adversity. What if this goes wrong like all the other times? I'm overthinking about it. And then scenario number 3 is you've had success in the past and failure. I think that's the perfect storm. However, you overthink and overanalyze the negative, thus diminish and almost downplay, and that's me being kind, the success when if you've had success and failure on equal measures. Let me put my hands, there we go, the level. On equal measures, they should be looked at as equal. So equity, equal. But we have this bad tendency of escalating the negative, so overanalyzing what went wrong, what could be improved, but not being grateful for what we have and what we were successful in. Because in some occasions, the success will override the failure, and you learn something from that event or scenario. But if you overanalyze the negative, this is where Dan, the actual post itself was amazing, because it said why you should have a lower IQ to be a good entrepreneur. Makes some sense, because if your IQ is lower, you're not going to overanalyze things, you're not going to overthink things, because you're going to go, okay, these are the facts. Bang, 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 bang. What do we need to do in order to action those? Go ahead and do them. Whereas I'm quite the overthinker, and I'll admit to that. These facts are those. Oh, let's put subheadings below them. Why? Why do I need to necessarily put subheadings above headings? If those are clear-cut tasks or objectives, why don't I just pull the trigger and go and implement them, as opposed to, oh, let's make it more perfect in order for me to stall. Let me drag my feet. Let me bring in some self-doubt as to why these things potentially don't work or couldn't work. Overthinking 101. As opposed to if I was just relying on, which has I'll put it here because then I'm not wrong, but relying on here and my gut to tell me whether or not it's a good decision or not, and not relying on this. Because if I believe in it and my gut and my body is telling me, so technically your gut is your second brain, is telling me that this is a good idea and I should persevere with it, and I should get it done, don't need to think about it. Let's just chuck something on the wall, see if it sticks, and then go from there. As opposed to thinking of what pasta am I going to throw on the wall, how much of it's going to stick, and then overcomplicate things. So that is my belief as why overthinking is a bad thing, is because maybe we need to make it things less complicated, less difficult, more simplified, and not being these intellectual people that we are, of always looking for the next idea when history has showed it to be the case. Simple is always best, because if you've got plan of action, you know what you need to do, obviously why you're not doing it is obviously another video in itself. But why aren't you taking care of that? So that's obviously overthinking, or why I believe overthinking is such a bad thing. All right, you guys have a wonderful Wednesday. Let me know what you thought of the setup, and I will see you all again tomorrow. All right, all the best, and